first. Dragonborn.
Hello ladies and gentlemen, it's Young here and welcome to another Skyrim Dragonborn news update. Before you watch this video, I highly recommend you watch my previous video because this one pretty much builds upon it. There are annotations at the end of this video with arrows pointing you to the previous video, so trust me, do that first. There's also a link in the comments below where it says video responses. Anyways, assuming you've watched the previous video, let's dive right in. Those who've watched my previous update will know that I covered some rumors leaked from beta testers. Well, a website called Examiner has an even better rundown of all the details that have been released, and here is what I missed. First, for those who've been hearing names like Telvanni, Redoran, and Hlaalu, these are great Dunmer houses from Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind. Fans of the game will be pleased to know these great houses will make a return in Solstheim. The most influential house is Redoran. The Telvanni, on the other hand, don't have much of a large presence, while the Hlaalu are there but have been shunned due to their cooperation with the Empire. Next, in the previous video I talked about new dragon shouts. These shouts were Cyclone, Bend Will, Dragon Riding, Dragon Aspect, and Battle Fury. Everything that I said in the previous video pretty much still stands, except I have just learned that Dragon Aspect will not only give you guys that glowing armor along with making you and your shouts much more powerful, it will also summon what the article calls Ancient Dragonborn to fight alongside you when you're low on health. Could this mean that the first Dragonborn is actually an ally rather than an enemy? Or does the first Dragonborn go from villain to ally, shifting allegiance at some point in the game? Or maybe this ancient Dragonborn is a third Dragonborn whose spirit comes back to aid you, much like Lucien Lachance from the Dark Brotherhood. I mean, an ancient Dragonborn doesn't necessarily have to be the first Dragonborn. Also, I think I forgot to mention in the previous video that this shout, the Dragon Aspect shout, can only be used once per day, so keep that in mind. You won't be able to spam Dovahkiin Super Saiyan mode. But in summary, the Dragon Aspect shout will also summon an ancient dragon when low on health, and this ancient Dragonborn could be the first Dragonborn we see in the trailer, or a third dead Dragonborn who comes back in spirit. I guess we'll find out in 4 days. In the previous video, I also talked about discovered locations. Well, here's an updated list with locations organized in categories. I won't read out the list for you guys. I mean, it'll make both your life and my life easier if I give you guys the list, since I do not know how to pronounce some of these. So if you really want to dive into the list, pause the video now, give it a read through, and hit play again to proceed. I also previously listed out a list of creatures and foes, but this updated list mentions more. First up, Morrowind fans will also be pleased to know that the Morag Tong will make a return. Thus far, according to the beta tester, there have been more random encounters than anything, and thus far, the beta tester has yet to encounter a big questline that involves them. He also hasn't run across the opportunity to join them, so whether players will be able to become a Morag Tong, that's anyone's guess right now. Hopefully there's at least a big questline that involves this guild, because otherwise it would be a pretty big, huge, big-ass missed opportunity. Previously, I also mentioned the word serpent listed out as one of the game's new features. It turns out this is also a new type of creature, some sort of a, well, serpent-like creature, and the beta tester points out that this creature is also in the trailer. He's probably talking specifically about this scene right here. I thought the snake was just a scripted event, but it looks like players will be fighting these as well. Then there's mention of new creatures called lurkers, which I'm sure are new creatures never seen before. Apparently these are really tough enemies with tons of health, physically as big as giants, and they dish out tons of damage. According to the beta tester, they're actually quite challenging. These creatures apparently slipped into Tamriel from Apocrypha, so that's some interesting background story right there. Furthermore, do expect some new dragon types, which is a given by now after seeing that weird-ass dragon in the Dragonborn trailer. I swear, this thing looks as naked as a shaved hamster, without all the spikes and the scales and crap, just really bizarre looking. And finally, the beta tester also talks about a new Dwemer automaton, described as a walking dwarven ballista. Yeah, you heard right. I dig it. Now let's talk about weapons and armor. The list mentions the usual Bone Mold, Chitin, and Stalrim, along with the rumored Deathbrand armor, but also gives more detail on the carved Nordic armor, stating it is a heavy armor. We also get further details on new weapons. By the end of the game, players will earn 2 unique scimitars. What they are, what their stats are, what their special effects are, these are currently unknown. Also, the article further clarifies spears, which I previously mentioned, saying that they can only be used by weaklings thus far. That fact still holds true, but I'm sure many of you guys are also wondering what happens if players pick up spears that the weaklings throw. When players pick spears up, they will magically turn into arrows. Yup, laziest solution ever. And once again, further confirmation that players won't be using spears anytime soon. Finally, let's talk about some new spells and powers. I talked about water walking potions and enchantments, along with vague mentions of other spells in the previous video, but this article gives a more extensive list. First, players will now be able to cast poison runes, those magical circles that essentially serve as mines in Skyrim. We had like fire runes and frost runes, but now players will get poison runes. There's also a power called Whirlwind Cloak, and no more details are given apart from the name. There's also a new power called Ash Shell, which paralyzes enemies by encasing them in ash or slows them down with damage. I don't know why there's two effects listed here, separated by an or, like one or the other could happen. Maybe it depends on what kinds of enemies you use it on. Now for mages, the article once again mentions that ring that essentially turns resurrected creatures into walking bombs, but players also now have the ability to enchant staves for those who are into that, which should make them quite a bit more useful. Also, remember when I talked about forbidden knowledge and books you could find in Apocrypha to learn new powers? Well, we get more details here on what powers those are. In Apocrypha, players can find a book that allows them to choose from one of 3 different active effects. They are Mora's Mercy, Mora's Wrath, and Mora's Agony. Unfortunately, their effects aren't detailed. However, much like the powers you get after completing the Nightingale quests, players can go back to this book to switch between powers as needed, the only restriction being, like the Nightingale powers, that players can only have one of them active at a time. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, all the new details that builds upon the previous video. If you decided not to watch the previous video, now would be a pretty good time to do so. Also, please do keep in mind these are all rumors, so be cautious about what you swallow. Anyways, thank you for tuning in to be further updated on this upcoming DLC as well as upcoming ones, along with other AAA titles such as Fallout 4, Grand Theft Auto 5, Ground Zeroes, and more. Join the nation and subscribe to Yongya. Also, if you enjoy Let's Play style gameplay videos, you can also join the nation by clicking on the Let's Play button and subscribing to Yong Gaming, my secondary Let's Play channel. I'll see you guys next time. Thank you very much, and Yong out!